Okay, hello and welcome to the Keep Learning podcast. My name is Alicia Siska. My pronouns are she and her.
And I'm Matthew Mesley, and my pronouns are he and they.
So today we're talking about dissertation writing. For many students we talk to hundreds of dissertation students every year, the dissertation is or can be a cause of much worry and much stress. Yeah, the task might seem enormous, the stakes are often high, and completing it takes quite a bit of time, which requires planning, time management, and organization, etc., etc. So the dissertation is supposed to showcase all the skills you have acquired at university, yeah? And this includes research skills, structuring, argumentation, synthesizing knowledge, critical thinking, and of course, writing. But when all these pressures accumulate, the result may be a sense of being overwhelmed, sometimes maybe even paralyzed and apprehensive about the whole thing.
Yeah, so what we thought we'd do today is help with that sort of sense of being overwhelmed by trying to distinguish what is true and what are myths about the dissertation process. So that's what we're going to try and talk about in the next sort of 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, and myths kind of are there always. I mean, I have heard so many interesting rumors every year, and every year, we kind of think about, oh, where did this come from, and how did this kind of rumor was get created? And so it's normal. It's normal to hear them, but it's also good to know what is real and what is less real about dissertation writing.
I think we were lucky in a way when we were doing our dissertation back in the dark ages, because we didn't necessarily have all this sort of information, on the web, everywhere else. We didn't have so many expectations, perhaps. So I think it's good to sort of cut through and talk about what are the truths and what could be myths about dissertation writing. Definitely.
Yes. Great. So let's start myth busting. And myth number one is kind of a little bit nebulous. It starts with "my friends say," and then you can fill in the blanks. And this is the kind of mother lode of all myths. It's basically hearsay, right? It's, a friend said something or an acquaintance said something, and we start worrying about it because maybe it contradicts what we already knew or what we thought we knew. And first of all, great that you have friends still while writing your dissertation. Congratulations. Just kidding. We do hope you have a very supportive circle. But do remember that your friends are probably in the same boat or in a similar situation to you, and they also might be susceptible to similar worries and misinformation. So just like you would in your usual academic research, it's better to rely on credible sources. So what's the truth, Matthew?
Well, the truth is that the correct information is out there. You just need to find it. And one of the main places that you can find that truth is obviously your dissertation handbook. And that is going to be sort of your key sort of resource that, although it might not be the most entertaining or interesting of reading text, it's really going to be useful for you because your lecturers will have given you really good advice there, really good tips about what you have to do for your dissertation. So it's worth looking through that, not only at the beginning, but also throughout the process, I would say. Would you agree?
Yeah, totally. I think your supervisor is the great, or can be a great source of support and information, right? So,
yeah.
And they definitely prefer to know that there is some information going out there that keeps you sleepless, at night, and they would want to tell you, no, that's not the case.
Exactly. I'd also recommend, if you're unsure about any particular a piece of information in the module handbook, to ask your supervisor to tell you what it means if you're unsure about it. But yes, so on with the second myth.
The second myth actually is very closely linked to the first one. Myth number 2, you're on your own because it's an independent project. But actually, few projects written completely independently are actually successful, while your supervisor will rarely tell you exactly what to do or what to write. They will use their expertise and experience to guide you and steer your thinking. So what is the truth?
Your supervisor is there for you. So they're going to be there to help you. And so that means that you can be proactive with them. Get in touch with them, set up meetings to talk to them. I remember when I was doing my dissertation, I used to stay basically on the history corridor most days. Obviously, you can't do that at the moment, but you can sort of reach out to them, you can email them, you can arrange meetings and agree on when you can talk and how many times during the term that you might be able to talk to them. And also you can talk to them about any drafts that you've sent to them, or feedback that you receive. That the supervisors, you've picked them because they're knowledgeable on your topic, and they're there to give you advice and help and guidance throughout your dissertation writing process, or not just your writing process, also the planning beforehand, the reading, all those other steps that you're going to be doing. So use them and be proactive is what I would say is a truth.
Yeah. Great. And in addition, so there's like a little bonus to this. It's not just your supervisor who's there for you, but others are there for you too. So you'll actually be surprised how many graduates in your field are happy to share their own experience and support you in this process of dissertation writing. They have already done it, yeah, and oftentimes they're really eager to share that experience. So, for example, there are 2 graduate students in history who set up operations cabinet, and they now have a YouTube channel where they post useful videos on the subject of interest to dissertation students in history, and we will link to it at the end of this video. But look it up in your own program. Maybe there are students in your own area who are sharing that information and who are out there really keen for you to use it. And also keep in mind that the university runs shut up and write sessions where you can get together with others to write together. And if you can't, set up your own shut up and write session. Find your tribe. Work with people. Get together it's like study together online, in person. It doesn't really matter. It's just easier to do it in company.
And I would say one final thing is also make use of, at the moment we have a lot of conferences are online. So in your particular field, you may have conferences that you can attend, and you'll see be able to see the work of scholars that might be important to your own field. And a lot of scholars, if you've got a question for them, are going to be okay as long as you write politely to them. I think they're often be fine to give advice. So that's another resource, perhaps.
Yeah. Okay.
So on to the third myth, which is you have never done this before. And so on one level, obviously you won't have written something of this length or size, but remember you have written, probably dozens of assignments, maybe smaller, but you've still written these kinds of assignments which will have similar structure. And you will have been doing a lot of the things up to this point that you will need for your dissertation. So it's not like you're coming at this with no experience or background. I think also one of the greatest mistakes perhaps with approaching the dissertation writing is seeing it as something that's so completely different or new, when actually you're at level 6 by this point. You have some experience. You're not sort of completely green anymore at the moment. So you will be able to use what you've done previously and place that into the work that you do for the dissertation. Also, I think it's important to sort of demystify the dissertation writing process a little bit, to think about how you can break it down into its sort of smaller components, and think about how at the planning stages you can make life easier for yourself, I suppose, when you come to do the writing, and you'll really sort of feel a lot better, I think, when you know, it's a sort of month or two before your deadline, when you've got some of that sort of scaffolding and structure there in place. Would you agree?
Yeah, totally. So actually, the truth number 3 is everything can be reduced to its component parts. Yeah, so chunk it. The dissertation is a sum of its chapters. So focus on the chapters or sections you need to write instead of you just looking at the whole thing. Each of these sections will be similar to any other essay, as Matthew said, that you have already written for your degree. If, for example, your dissertation has 3 chapters, an introduction and a conclusion, you're just actually writing 3 + 1 + 1, 5 different short essays. So you can, you know, we could use that metaphor of climbing a mountain. Yeah, there's this big tall mountain called dissertation in front of you, and it may seem impossible to climb, but with each step you're getting closer to the top. So if you focus on what's in front of you while taking this in the scenic view, the bigger picture, it will be much more manageable.
Yeah, totally agree. And I suppose the next myth is that your dissertation must be an original contribution to the field. And I think basically, when you're sort of in your 3rd year, you don't necessarily have to worry about this yet. The goal of most undergraduate dissertations is to demonstrate a good grasp of the research proposal, not to do something that's never been done before. That's more if you're continuing on, you know, and if you do a PhD later on, then you'll be expected to do more of a sort of original contribution. It's certainly for your dissertation, it's fine to sort of try and be innovative or look at it something from a new approach, but I wouldn't worry too much about this aspect. Would you agree, Alicia?
Yeah, totally. I mean, this is the greatest burden. Even at the PhD level, right?
Yes.
It's still really tricky. I mean, you can contribute something original, but usually it's so tiny and so, you know,
Exactly.
granular that actually what you're doing is maybe you're providing a slightly different perspective on things, or maybe you're providing a more detailed look to then kind of extrapolate onto bigger issues. So in fact, when you think about it, what you really need to do and achieve is kind of answer the so what question. So think about what your work really does and what is the value of it. Yeah, does it help maybe answer some larger questions in the field? Is it so your dissertation is supposed to be just like a small slice in a pie, right? A tiny little fragment of reality that says something about that pie, but actually it's just a fraction of it. It's just a little lens on something, on a smaller problem. But it is important to know the answer to that so what question, because then you know you kind of need to know why you even wrote it. What was the point of it? Yeah? The point of it was because you wanted to demonstrate something, and then just think about what is it that you want to demonstrate. It doesn't have to be, you know, something completely new and unknown, and you know you're not supposed to reinvent the wheel. Really.
Definitely. So that goes on to our next myth, which is that dissertation writing is boring, depressing, and unrewarding. And I suppose dissertations can get a bad press sometimes. But I think that's because we can often sort of get bogged down in it sometimes, if we're sort of looking at one topic over a period of time. But I think, remember, a lot of the time you've picked this topic because you're interested in it, and you might be passionate about a particular topic, but it's also normal sometimes for you to sort of get fed up with something, or to fall out of love for a little bit at times. So I wouldn't sort of worry if that kind of happens. But often it can be something that can be really rewarding, particularly, if you're looking at sort of some, over research that's been done recently on your topic. It can be really interesting to see what's out there and, what people have said about something. And, it can shape your views about a topic too. Would you agree?
Yeah. And, the truth is that writing is hard. Yeah. And even professional writers will say the same. It is hard. Writing is not an art. It's a craft. It's something that is a skill that is developed over time, that takes work, that takes just, showing up, sitting at your desk every day, or, not every day, but on a regular basis, and actually doing.
Not every day.
But for professional writers, it probably is every day. But it doesn't have to be boring. As Matthew said, in all likelihood, you chose your own topic and you chose it for a reason. So when things start to feel a bit difficult, maybe go back to that reason. Think about what was it that made you passionate about this topic in the first place. What's your why, basically? Yeah, you kind of, when you're writing a dissertation, like I mentioned before, you're developing an expertise in a very small but probably compelling area of knowledge. So think about that dissertation as a sort of journey of discovery, and you're being the kind of detective who's trying to uncover some truth that it's not necessarily, so now I said uncover some truth, now it's it's putting pressure on that originality again, but that's not the point. The point is, you have some questions to answer, and you're trying to find out a few things. So if you put that detective hat on, it may become a little bit more exciting and kind of remind you, what brought you to this topic in the first place.
Definitely. Say the final myth, and probably the most horrible one of all. You can't do it.
No, that's not true. Of course. I mean, what more can we say? Of course you can. Or, as some political slogan said, yes, we can. And yes, you can. So, thousands have done it before you, and thousands will come after, and they will do it. But obviously, this is all being facetious, but you can make the writing process more manageable. Yeah, and when it feels a little bit unmanageable, and you can make it also more enjoyable. And some of this happens by setting up a certain routine. So, Matthew said, don't write every day.
have some breaks occasionally.
Yeah, but if some people prefer to write in short spurts of time, so maybe 30 minutes to an hour a day, if you want to do it in every day. But maybe you prefer to do an hour to every other day, or maybe you want to dedicate one particular day per week to your dissertation writing exclusively. So there's just this one, a longer, a few hour long stretch of time when you can actually focus on that project. So find what works for you. And think about setting up those writing groups that we mentioned before. It's really so much easier to write with others. It makes you show up. It makes you kind of feel like you're not alone in it, because you're not, right? And look out for these kind of support systems, resources. Our own SharePoint site with student learning has all sorts of videos and details for, you know, how to make an appointment with for a writing tutorial, or come drop in to see us about any aspect of your dissertation writing, or maybe find the details of these Shut Up and Write groups.
Can I jump in as well?
Yeah, please.
I think another really thing that can spur you on is by linking back to our one of the previous points is by sort of maybe sort of saying to yourself, right, I'm going to get in touch with my supervisor and say, arrange a time for them to look over a particular draft as well, because that always will push you. Then if you've got a deadline, and you know, even if you're creating deadlines for yourself, I think that can often be helpful and can sort of push you, spur you on.
Yeah, because it's about being in control, right? It's about feeling like you're in charge. You're the one who is actually making sure that things happen and not waiting. Because I think the worst is when sometimes we kind of wait, okay, we're part of a process or part of something bigger, and that these parts will somehow kind of come together into something. But actually, we are the engine of the whole process. And it can sometimes be overwhelming because it's on us, but actually it also gives you that sense of control and agency.
Yeah, don't don't leave it to the last moment, I suppose. No. It's a good thing.
Yeah, totally. Well, you know, dissertations are supposed to happen over time. Yeah, the idea is that you have that time for brewing your thoughts. Yeah, it's a lot of thinking time. Then the thinking time is long, and then you have the writing time, and then you have editing time. So all these stages have their place in the process, and they have to kind of be respected in a way, because without them, I mean, it's not just about writing. Yeah, that thinking is absolutely important to conceptualize, to know what is it that you want to convey through this writing, but also then coming and cleaning it up, tidying it up, and thinking about your reader through editing is equally important. So I think it's good to just remember that dissertation is not just about writing. Yeah, but it's kind of thinking and editing, and it's an entire process to consider.
And knowing that everyone else is doing it at the same time, it's not just you as well, I think can really help.
Yeah, totally.
That you're not sort of alone.
And there's a village out there to help as well. It takes a village to write a dissertation.
Exactly, definitely.
Yeah. So shall we summarize these kind of, you know, winning strategies to ensure that this experience of dissertation writing is both successful and fairly satisfying?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, follow the credible information. You know, don't listen to rumors, listen to your supervisor, and make sure you read over your dissertation handbook and keep it with you at all times, basically.
Yeah. Okay, number 2, be proactive with your supervisor, yeah, and also find your sources of support outside of your supervisor. Maybe, obviously, family, friends, and graduates.
Yeah, 3, so everything can be reduced to its component parts. So break things down, you know, whether that's into its chapters or particular sections, or, you know, you can break it down, because it will mean that it'll be less overwhelming for you.
Great. Number 4, try to answer the so what question. Yeah, so identify your expertise and think about, okay, this is something that kind of will maybe define you a little bit. Yeah, maybe you will be able to show off your knowledge at that, you know, Christmas dinner table. When, you know,
when things are back to normal.
Yeah, exactly. Grandma asks you, you know, what is it that you spend so much time working on? And you'll be like, oh, this is what I can share with you. You know, I developed a piece of expertise, some knowledge here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So 5 is like finding your why. So if things get get difficult, it's always good and useful to think about why you chose that subject to begin with. You know, it must have been something that, you know, you thought was going to be interesting and that you're passionate about, perhaps. So that's always a good thing to do, I think.
Yes, great. And number 6 is yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can. You can do this, and you can do it well. Yeah, totally. Anything we've forgotten?
So each week, what we thought we'd do is have a segment where either one of us or one of our guests brings along a object or item that they associate with the theme of the week. And this week, Alicia has brought with her a particular item that she associates with the dissertation process.
Yeah, okay. So my little item is this tiny little cactus.
Oh, very cute.
And why it's a cactus? Well, first of all, I got this cactus from my own dissertation student as a little thank you at the end. And obviously, it's been a few years now. It's still alive, strangely, although the little flower has kind of moved to the side a little. It's very fashionable now. But I thought, oh my gosh, this is like a perfect metaphor for dissertation writing, because cactus is a plant that is really hardy, right? It's kind of it's something that has endured, right? Endured not being watered. Yeah, it can endure in any conditions, in the heat and in dry weather. So it's kind of a symbol of harsh conditions, but also I think in the kind of succulent gardeners community, it symbolizes unconditional love, eternal love. Yeah. So because it can stand up to the test of the harshest elements, right? So actually, what it symbolizes is the fact that you can thrive when writing a dissertation, and so that's, I thought.
Oh, that's a lovely message, and very really nice that they gave you this.
Yeah. So it's still with me by my computer, reminding me of, not just the good times of supervising students, but also of, what it actually means, the process of dissertation writing, what it means to the students and to myself as well.
It's like your dissertation mascot.
Yay!
Does
to close.
Does he, she, or they have a name?
Well, yes, the student's name.
Okay.
So I shall never forget.
That's really cool.
So what we have talked about here is really, it's not what you need to do when you write a dissertation, right? It's not about how to write a dissertation. It's more about how to stop yourself from worrying about it so much, or creating obstacles, not even knowingly, right, to that writing process. Because every program, every even supervisor could tell you a million more things than we can, about the specific advice, give you more specific advice about your specific dissertation. But what we were trying to achieve here is more think about it as a project, as a thing that needs to be done, and how to approach it in a kind of constructive way that will keep you wanting to keep you motivated to
and that you won't get too anxious or overwhelmed or worry too much about the process.
Because once these veils drop, right, of the anxiety, and the mind clears, then you can achieve anything. It's just that when you feel kind of a little bit too like constricted through just just tight in your, even physically in your body through anxiety, that doesn't allow to really spread your wings and show what you can do, what you've learned and what you've built up to over the years.
Definitely. I feel we should have some motivational music now.
One day, Matthew.
So thank you for watching. If you'd like to know more about dissertation writing, check out our short videos on our SharePoint site, which you can access through the Student Learning website. You can also subscribe to the podcast on YouTube so you don't miss any of the conversations. And next week, we're going to focus on an interesting topic that I'm going to allow Alicia to talk about now.
Yeah, I will mention it only briefly, just to whet your appetite. But it's going to be about reader's block. So we all know about writer's block.
Intriguing.
But very few people ever talk about reader's block, but there is such a thing. So we'll talk about reading and how to approach the potential obstacles to actually, expanding our knowledge base before we even think about writing and expressing our ideas. So we look forward to seeing you then.
And don't forget,
keep learning.